Hey, what's up, guys? This is Dr. Enoch Kotei, the primary care physician you can trust, breaking down the topics you care about in a way that you can understand. Sorry it's been so long since the last time I posted. I think this is probably about my first video in about 3 months now. Just been really busy, really hectic with the kids and everything, and also taking a little bit of a social media purge as well. But I did want to get this video over to you because we just seen our first emergency use authorization for coronavirus vaccine through Pfizer. So I did want to go ahead and make this video and answer the really important question of whether or not I myself as a physician would actually take a COVID-19 vaccine. I think we can all agree that the past 9 months in this country have been very tough. We've had millions of cases and hundreds of thousands of deaths due to COVID-19. And we can all agree that we're getting really tired of this pandemic and that we want it to end soon, and that something drastic does need to happen soon in order to really kind of turn the corner on this and move towards, putting an end to this pandemic and returning to some sense of normalcy. I just know, speaking from a personal standpoint, that I'm definitely ready to see this pandemic go. I haven't seen my family in over a year. My parents, my siblings back in Delaware. I don't want to go back there and travel and put them in any kind of danger or any risk or anything like that. I'm ready to go to sporting events again, see basketball games live in person. I'm ready to go to, see some of my favorite artists live in concert. Run the Jewels actually dropped a really hot album this year, and I know that at one point they want to go on tour and perform that live, and I want to see them perform live as well because I'm a huge fan. So, things like this are just not really going to be possible right now, given the way that the numbers are and how easy it is to spread COVID-19. It's just too risky. A lot of experts are saying that the only way to kind of get us there towards the end of this pandemic and eradicating this virus is through a vaccine. And I actually do agree with that. When you think about a lot of the other major pandemics or a lot of the major viruses in past history, whether it be polio or even something more recent like chickenpox, a lot of these things we were able to, pretty much almost eradicate them because of vaccines, and even things like measles, you see what happens when you're able to pretty much almost eradicate those type of viruses. And then when there's a few people here and there decide that they don't want to take the vaccine, then, the numbers can go up very easily. And people end up suffering from a virus that they don't necessarily need to suffer from or need to deal with, because we do have vaccines that can easily help prevent them. A lot of people around the world are working hard to try to come up with vaccines that can help us protect us from COVID-19. And I think we really need to embrace that and see exactly what these things can do and whether or not they can work and help us achieve the goals that we want to achieve. So anyway, that brings us to current day, in which we have news of the first vaccine to be approved for emergency use authorization for the prevention of COVID-19. And this is the Pfizer vaccine, which is an mRNA vaccine. And there's a few others that potentially could be up for approval in the coming weeks and months. There's a Moderna vaccine, which is also an mRNA vaccine. And we have the AstraZeneca vaccine, which is an adenovirus type of vaccine. So depending on who you are, this can be very good news, or this can be, maybe some unsettling news as well, depending on how you view vaccines as a whole. But this whole process has led to many of my patients asking me the very personal question of whether or not I myself would actually take one of these vaccines, and whether or not I feel like it's safe. And whether or not I feel like it's effective enough and worth it to take one of these vaccines and take on the risk of the unknown. And, even though this is a very personal question, I don't mind that, because I think it's also a reasonable question for someone to ask. If a doctor is going to tell you or try to encourage you to do something, it would be nice to know that that person who, they're your doctor, but they're also a human being first. It's nice to know that they would actually do the same thing if they were in your shoes as well. Because if they wouldn't, then that can be a little bit concerning, and you would ask yourself, well, why would you be doing that if the doctor themselves would not do that when it comes to their own health? So I don't mind answering this question at all, and I'll definitely give you my thoughts. Now, one of the main concerns that's come out of this whole COVID-19 vaccine development process is the fact that it's been developed so quickly. They call the whole project Operation Warp Speed, and usually when you hear about vaccines, it takes years to develop vaccines for any given virus. And we've been able to develop one in under a year, it looks like. So a lot of people are kind of just very weary of that, and it kind of has them concerned and very worried that maybe a few corners were cut and a few things were skipped in the process to develop this vaccine, and that maybe we don't know how safe it is because we don't have that much experience or long-term data to kind of make sure that nothing can happen to you down the line when you take one of these vaccines. And that's actually a very legitimate argument, and especially because this is kind of record time, and this is a very important thing. Developing a vaccine that you're going to take that's going to have injected into your body, and you're hoping that it's actually going to benefit you and do more good than actual harm. But one of the reasons why they've been able to develop these vaccines as quickly as they have been is because a lot of the technology in regards to developing vaccines has really progressed and come along over the past few years. And with this technology, they're basically able to, as soon as they kind of get the sequence of the genetic material for a virus, they're able to kind of just plug it into a system and a program and kind of develop a vaccine very quickly. And then, they've been able to really streamline this whole process of, developing it and testing it out and everything. But even though things have been happening very quickly, they have not been able to skip any of the main stages for vaccine development. In the early stages, basically you just kind of test the medication or the treatment on a very small group of people, and just make sure that it's not toxic, or you just kind of find the right doses to make sure that they're not harmful to a person or to a human. And then at the next stage, you make sure that the vaccine is actually, or the medication in this clinical trial is actually effective. And then in the next stage, you just actually, in addition to making sure it's effective, you kind of compare it to standard of care treatments, basically, or you compare it to some sort of placebo. And then after that, you still do, some surveillance just to make sure that when it's given to a larger amount of people, that there's no major adverse events or side effects that can be found in that larger group of people once they receive that treatment. So this vaccine and the other vaccines in their works as well have been given to several thousands of people up to this point, and they're going through all those different phases and all those different stages of clinical trials. So you can rest assured that that part, there's not going to be any corners cut on that for sure. Now, a lot of people are concerned with the fact that this is kind of fairly new technology. This is an mRNA vaccine. And basically what they mean by that is that they're actually, mRNA is a part of, genetic material that, codes for different things in our body that makes up some of the stuff in our body that makes us who we are, So you've heard of DNA, right? So DNA is basically our genes. The genes are what eventually lead to us making all the different components and parts in our body that make us unique and make us function the way we function and make us who we are. And DNA, it turns into RNA, and then RNA eventually codes for proteins through development of something called amino acids. And proteins are the building blocks of all the different structures within our body. So basically with this vaccine, they're taking RNA, which has the ability to code for a specific protein that the COVID-19 virus makes, called the spike protein. And basically when they inject you with the mRNA and in your body, it makes this spike protein, which by itself doesn't do anything. The virus can only be effective when it actually is in a whole. So when you just have one component of that being made in your body, it can't do anything by itself, and it can't infect you or anything like that. But basically, once you get injected with this mRNA and it makes a spike protein in your body, then that spike protein, gets recognized by your immune system, and then you start to make antibodies against it. And antibodies are basically these proteins that your body makes whenever it sees something foreign, these antibodies kind of surround foreign things in your blood and your body and kind of, set them up to be kind of attacked and set them up to be eliminated from your body, basically. So when you develop antibodies against a spike protein, if you ever get exposed to the real COVID-19 virus, then it will recognize it right away, and these antibodies will go to that site where the real virus is and attack it so that it can't actually infect your body. So, this is something that, is a little bit of a revolutionary idea. It's different from something, for example, like the flu vaccine, in which basically the flu vaccine is giving you a little bit of like a protein from the flu virus itself, and, making your body get an antibody or an immune response against that thing. So it's not giving you mRNA, it's just giving you the protein already. Where this vaccine is actually giving you the mRNA to develop the protein so that you can develop the antibody. So it's a little bit of an extra step in some ways, but because they're able to do that, they're able to actually develop the vaccine a lot quicker with some of the technology that they have. Now, in addition to the speed at which this vaccine has been developed, and also the fact that it's kind of fairly new and unfamiliar territory in terms of the type of vaccine that it is, a lot of people have also been concerned in terms of just the kind of political influence that has been kind of looming over the development of this whole vaccine and just the whole process of bringing it out and everything. And I've been actually kind of worried about that too, and I'm hoping in the next few months that can change in terms of part of the government kind of really putting political pressure on scientists and scientific agencies to kind of make the right decisions and do the right things, and kind of make sure that the whole process of development and distribution is actually a process that has a great amount of integrity to it. So things are changing. We're going to have a transition of power, and hopefully good things come out of that, and I anticipate that they will. But one thing I would also, caution is to, really try to avoid, kind of getting into the extreme with the conspiracy theories that, the government purposely created the virus in order to be able to, come out with a vaccine or something like that and profit off of that. That goes for all the people within the government that are actually working on the vaccine as well. All these people could easily end up getting this virus themselves. So there definitely is no reason for anybody to want to create, some kind of super bug or super virus that can infect millions just so it can, lead to some kind of monetary profit for them. I know within the Black community, there are definitely concerns in terms of experimentation, which makes sense. I made a video in the past about experimentation and, the history, especially among African Americans in this country, of them dealing with exploitation and experimentation in a negative way. You might know about the Tuskegee experiment that took place with syphilis. But one thing I can say is that now, in this day and age, there are too many of our people kind of involved with the process to kind of really let anything like that happen again. As a matter of fact, some of the top scientists developing some of these vaccines are actually Black. So we're going to make sure that this is something that's equitable for everybody, and that we're not going to make sure that it's something that can only be beneficial, whether it be from an economic or social economic standpoint, but also from a biological standpoint, make sure it's beneficial for everybody. And that also, means getting Blacks involved in some of the clinical trials as well. But we're going to make sure that this is something that's good for everybody to take, and not just, something that can be used to target our community and, maybe help eliminate us or lead to the wiping out of Blacks in this country by administering this vaccine. Basically, what I'm saying is that we got you. All right, yeah, we're on your side. We're looking out for you in your best interests, mainly because our best interests are also on the line as well. So in summary, to answer the question of whether or not I myself, an African-American physician, would take a COVID-19 vaccine, the answer is yes. I'm 99.9% sure that I will take one, barring any kind of unforeseen circumstance or any new development that could come out in the next few days or weeks that potentially could, throw a wrinkle in that and change things and, drastically change my whole perspective on these vaccines in general. And the reason for this is because honestly, guys, I really don't see any way around it in terms of taking the vaccine in order to, put an end to this pandemic and return back to that sense of normalcy. A lot of people talk about, achieving herd immunity. And basically the idea of that is that, sometimes when enough people within a population have antibodies against a certain virus, then sometimes it's hard for that virus to really kind of spread within that community because a lot of people are kind of immune against it, have already been exposed to it and are already immune to it basically. But in order for us to achieve a herd immunity with this virus, then a lot more people would have to be infected within the population. And if a lot more people get infected beyond what have been infected right now, then that would basically mean a lot more sick people, a lot more deaths, and the healthcare system being even more overwhelmed than it is right now. So basically, that's kind of like an unacceptable outcome and an unacceptable level of risk just to try to achieve herd immunity or to sit around and wait for herd immunity. So I don't think we want to do that. That definitely is not the way we want to try to approach this pandemic. Obviously, I'm an American trained physician. I practice Western medicine. I'm a traditional primary care physician. So I'm a huge believer in vaccines in general. And like I mentioned, the way that we got around a lot of the other viruses in the past and the way we've been able to kind of get rid of them or almost become close to eradicating them is through vaccines. So vaccines can be very special, can make a world of difference. That's the reason why I think we should embrace this one as well, especially with everything that's going on right now. The cases are going up. People are trying to social distance and wear their masks and so forth. But, even when you try to do everything you can try to do to play your part in controlling the spread of this virus, a lot of other people out there are refusing to do that or refusing to kind of, cooperate with these measures and, do things for the greater good in order to, benefit other people in addition to themselves. One way to kind of control your own fate is to, protect yourself through a vaccine so that you don't necessarily have to worry about the decisions that other people around you make. And then, like I said, I really, really long for, returning back to normal and being able to travel, not only to go see my family, but also want to, take a vacation again to somewhere else. I want to go to sporting events. I want to go to concerts. I want to go out and eat at restaurants. It's one of my favorite things to do, I want other friends to be able to come into town and visit me and for me to be able to show them a good night out on town, things like that. So, and the way things are now, even with wearing your mask and trying to social distance, that's not going to happen. We're not going to be able to do that anytime soon. I just look forward to getting the vaccine and being able to, do some of those things. And, the first day I get it, I'm not going to all of a sudden just take my mask off and then just go every single where, obviously, because a lot of people are not going to be vaccinated and, the virus is not 100% protective. Some of these are, 90, 95% effective, they say, but that doesn't mean 100%. So it's still possible to be infected with COVID-19 after you get the virus, but I still like my chances once I get it. Especially if I'm still taking the precautions that I've been taking anyway, and just kind of waiting a few months to see how everything plays out in terms of the rollout of this vaccine. So, I think I'll try it out, and I'll volunteer and be a guinea pig for my patients. I'll let them know how things played out when I got the vaccine, what kind of side effects I got from it. And I've been told that, you probably should expect some sort of side effects, even if they're mild. Just because that's just what the vaccine does, and a lot of people have reported that in some of the clinical trials, which is fine because you're going through those in order to avoid getting infected with something that potentially could be life-threatening. And I don't want to say that since I'm 35 years old, I'm young and healthy. If I get the real thing, then I'm going to be fine because, as you can see, there's no rhyme or reason to this virus. There's a lot of people my age that have been dying from this virus. People that are younger than me that have died from this virus that have been healthy and haven't had any previous conditions as well, previous health conditions. So, I definitely do not want this virus. I want to be protected against it, and I want to stay safe, and I just want to be able to kind of move on with my life, basically. So those are the type of things that I look forward to, and those are the things that I have in mind when deciding to, move forward with getting a vaccine. So in the coming days, weeks, and months, I'm going to continue to pray on this. I'm going to pray for all of you, pray for my family, that we can all continue to get through this together, and that we come out of this pandemic in one piece, and that if we do choose to take a vaccine, that that it doesn't give us too many bad side effects or any adverse events at all, and that it does more good than actual harm, because that's the intention for it. And I'll let you guys know how it goes. So if you have any questions, let me know. I know a lot of people have other different opinions out there. Feel free to share them in the comments below. And by the way, if you have not subscribed to Trust PCP, make sure you do, to stay up to date with some of the latest medical content or discussions on some of the most relevant topics in the world of primary care. Thank you for watching. Peace out.